Any private individual, not company, but individual, who launches an FMCG brand instantly has my attention. Why? Because the hurdles between the idea and success are huge. That's why when I had the opportunity to interview a fellow who, with his own money, has launched Australia's newest instant noodle brand, I jumped at it. It's a flavoursome episode 645 of the 14-year-old award-winning Small Business Big Marketing podcast.
Well, I said, welcome to a small business marketing show where successful small business owners share their souls to take your marketing straight to the lead. Now, here's your host, Mr. Timbo Reid.
And welcome back to your weekly dose of instant marketing. I'm your host, Timbo Reid, and I have an insatiable curiosity for uncovering marketing ideas that help businesses just like yours to grow. And I do that through weekly in-depth conversations with successful business founders that have walked the path before us and are willing to share, which is very generous of them. You, infinitely and more importantly, are a motivated business owner and you're ready to crank out some great marketing to build that beautiful business of yours into the empire it absolutely deserves to be. As per usual, team, there is marketing GOLD dripping from the ceiling over here at Small Business Big Marketing's HQ. So let's get stuck right in. A very big thank you to all the motivated business owners who've already joined my Patreon to support the work I do for small business. So appreciated, guys. If you're yet to join, then give it some consideration, as I'm pretty damn confident that the tax-deductible $47 a month investment, no commitment, just a monthly investment, that's the middle tier, it's called Silverama, will pay for itself in no time thanks to the 47 marketing ideas, that's a coincidence, that I've already put to video for you, the 9 productivity tool reviews that I've done to save you time and money, and the 14 video interviews I've posted, and I'm adding new content every week. Plus, I've just opened a 7-day free trial for the silver tier, so go check it out at patreon.com/marketing podcast. You got nothing to lose and plenty to gain, as a number of members have already made back much more than their monthly investment, and that is my intention. Check it out, patreon.com/marketing podcast. See you on the inside. And as you would have heard at the start of this episode, I've got a new sponsor. Love it! In the eBusiness Institute, which is owned by recent guest Matt Reid and his wife Liz. You'll hear from them a little bit later, but if you haven't listened to episode 641 yet, then do yourself a favour and do so. It is my most popular episode of recent times based on listener numbers, and for damn good reason. Matt and Liz are Australia's leading experts on teaching you how to buy, renovate and sell content websites for good profit. And boy, oh boy, do they know their stuff. I have bought their course between you and I. You can watch their 90-minute free masterclass over at ebusinessinstitute.com.au/Timbo. It'll blow you away. And so very, very good to have them as a new sponsor on board. Righto, let's meet today's special guest. His name is Jamali, and like so many small business owners, he is full of courage and passion for what he's building, and I love that. Mez is the co-founder of Australia's newest instant noodle brand. It's called Wholesome Bowl, and the offering right now is simple. Packets of chicken and beef flavoured noodles with the added benefit of being nutritionally good for you thanks to the inclusion of fibre, protein, vitamins and minerals. I know what you're thinking. Come on, Timbo, you're saying they're instant noodles, mate. How can they be healthy? Doesn't matter right now. Put any limiting beliefs aside, as it's Mez's approach to launching a brand in the cutthroat world of FMCG that is most interesting, fast-moving consumer goods. I mean, come on. Think about the challenges that he's facing. Finding a manufacturer when he's got no manufacturing track record, getting distribution across independent stores as well as the big multinational supermarket chains. I'm sweating just reading it. Going up against brands like Maggi, who'd happily knock him off in a heartbeat. And all this using his own money on a very modest budget. Oh boy. No matter what business you're in, there is plenty to learn from Mez's approach, especially his focus on nostalgia. More on that very shortly. I started off by asking Mez what inspired him to become the instant noodle guy.
Yeah, it's a pretty crazy story, actually. So I'm a massive instant noodle fan myself. I grew up eating it. In fact, it was the first thing I learned how to cook as a kid. And I used to pretend to be like on a TV show as I was cooking them. So absolutely loved them. Going through uni, it's what I survived on. Like many, uni students, being able to have a cheap, convenient meal. It was always my safety net. So I always had a packet of noodles in my pantry. But then as time went on, just found myself not wanting to eat them anymore. And not because I didn't love them, but it was because of the health side. So I felt like they were full of nasty ingredients, and
well, they are, aren't they?
Yeah, well, generally speaking, yes. I felt like they didn't have any nutritional value, so I went about and tried to fill that gap myself.
Wow, just like that. That's a passionate instant noodle lover. It's like the guy who bought Remington, the shaving company. You're probably too young to remember, but there's that famous old TV commercial where the guy says, what was his name? It's on the tip of my tongue. It doesn't matter, but he loved the company so much he bought it. You love the instant noodle so much that you had to make your own.
Yeah, exactly. And initially I went out searching as a consumer. I just found there was nothing out there, and I spoke to more and more people, and they were saying the same thing as me. They were looking for the same sort of thing. And one thing led to another. I'm like, why not? Yeah, why not do it? Mm-hmm. And all my friends thought I was crazy, but here I am.
Well, it's interesting because I know they do have a bad rap, instant noodles, particularly the sort of, we won't mention brands, but, the leading ones, are arguably, or at least the perception is they're full of toxins and bad things. I had Damien Lee, the late Damien Lee, on this podcast, I think about 6 years ago. Mr. Lee's Noodles, he'd come across the same problem, I think.
Yeah.
And solved it. What didn't he solve that you are?
So I guess there's two components that I find people are looking for, and initially this is what I was looking for. So one is the nasty ingredients, and you're right, there are a few companies who, have a cleaner label offering. The other element of it is added nutrients. So noodles are just empty calories, essentially. The traditional noodles are just empty calories. So I found myself looking for a product that actually had added nutrients. And what I mean by that is, you added protein, you added fiber, vitamins and minerals, something that can actually make it a full meal rather than just a belly satisfier that, keeps your belly satisfied for half an hour to an hour, and then you're hungry again.
Sounds like a very futuristic food, because you're taking basically the basic white instant noodle, and what have you added? You've added proteins and vitamins and minerals and fiber, and kind of given it a little bit of depth. Is that the kind of idea here?
Yeah, exactly. My goal here was how do I create an instant noodle that could be used as a meal replacement?
Wow,
because a lot of
goal,
people
mate.
were. Yes, because I found a lot of people were using it that way, but in reality, it's only supposed to be a snack food. But, consumers, because of the cost, they were just using it as a full meal replacement. And I thought to myself, well, this doesn't actually have any nutrients, so let's put enough nutrients in this to actually make it a full meal replacement.
Let's go back a step, because I'm very interested in the manufacturing of instant noodle. Manufacturing, full stop, interests me. But before we do that, you established the premium ice cream brand Halo Top as the number one selling ice cream under 500 ml in Australia. So that's quite an achievement. Halo Top, great brand. What was your biggest learning, both from a business and a marketing perspective, that you were then able to leave Halo Top and go and start an instant noodle company?
My biggest learning was how to find customers who love the product, but for one reason or another, not shop that category. So, as kids, we all love ice cream growing up, but then as time goes on, we become a bit wiser and we stop having it because of the health issues sort of around that. So it's about tapping into that old sort of nostalgia around a product, but then bringing in a sense of, intelligence or sophistication when it comes to health, and really communicating that with the customers, and really taking the customers on that exact journey of indulging in something that is traditionally not good for you, but allowing yourself and making it permissible.
You caught my attention, Mez, talking about old nostalgia. Let's dig deep on that. I think nostalgia is such a great positioning, because in the world in which we live, it's getting crazier and crazier. People are feeling less secure. They're trusting less brands. There's a lot of shit going down, right? So if a brand can attach itself to nostalgia, to years gone by, where things were safer, simpler, they're probably on a good thing. So how are you tapping, outside of instant noodles being a sort of nostalgic meal, how are you tapping into that?
So we do, in terms of actual marketing techniques, we engage with a lot of social media influencers. And one thing that we say is just try our product. Here's what it is. But we're not going to tell you what to post about it. We're not going to tell you how to write about it. Just to give us your honest opinion and share that with your audience. And what we find is giving them that creative license, they naturally just tap into that nostalgia themselves, and that permeates through to their customers, their audience rather. And then, that trust is then built through these social media influencers, because a lot of people, trust the advice that they're hearing from these influencers.
So are you saying, I'm interested in the influencer strategy as well, how you go about that. But before we explore that, are you saying that by default, you give someone, in this case an influencer, some Wholesome Bowl product, they try it and they involuntarily go, the good old instant noodle. I used to have them when I came home from school. Is that the kind of thing that is just happening organically? Yeah,
exactly. That's exactly what we're finding.
That's powerful.
Yeah, definitely. And going back to the original story that I had, that's exactly how I felt. So yeah, it's really interesting to see more and more people, have that exact reaction as well.
I wonder, and I don't want this to become a coaching call, but I do love instant noodles. I am a marketing guy. I did grow up on them. I did get home from school and it was like, do I have 45 Arnott's cream biscuits or 2 packets of Maggi instant noodles, chicken flavour, of course. And often I went the chicken noodles. Given that you've said you're trying to tap into nostalgia, I feel like you've got a long way to go. And I say that respectfully. I mean, at the bar, in terms of what you're doing with the Wholesome Bowl brand and nostalgia, I didn't pick up on that until you said it. I think it's a great positioning. Have you got a plan to kind of build on that and really embrace it?
Yeah, it's something that we're working towards. We're still relatively new in the market. So what's interesting is we're trying to couple that nostalgia with a sense of sophistication as well. So it's like, what does
Mez, the instant noodles, mate. Sophistication?
Yes, well, that's the thing, where it's how do we... The way in our briefs that we've been talking about is noodles for adults. So it's like tapping into that nostalgia, but then also coupling it with that sense of sophistication and, showing that, noodles can still be enjoyed by adults. Sure, give them to your kids as well, and that's great. And on that front, we're actually doing this massive packaging redesign based around this concept of, noodles for adults and a sense of, nostalgia, but permissibility when it comes to instant noodles.
I get it, and I'll be there. I mean, give me instant noodles, I'm a happy fellow, and I'm 56. But I wonder whether I'm unusual because, I mean, let me challenge you on that. Aren't you kidding yourself? Aren't instant noodles always going to be the realm of the pimply teenage schoolboy and or the university student who's, can't afford a big meal every night? Are you really going to convince the Timbos of the world that they should become a staple again?
Well, I really hope so.
Yes.
We really see it as like let's call it a safety net. It's a product that everyone should have in their pantry, because we know life gets busy. No one's kind of immune to that. So, often when life gets busy and we're not on top of everything, we turn to, junk food and really unhealthy stuff. And we see ourselves as maybe that safety net in your pantry when, life gets busy and we can sort of fill that gap.
Yeah, I get it. Tell me about the influencers. Interesting strategy. Been around for a while now. How does it work for you? Are you literally just how do you identify an influencer to send product to, and then how do you get an ROI on them from them?
Yeah, so it's interesting. So there's a few things that we look at. One is size of influencer, and interesting enough, we're going for more micro influencers. Let's say people around like 5,000 to 20,000. Yep. Yeah, 5,000 to 20,000 followers. So that's one strategy, and more so in the health and fitness industry. We find people in that industry and their audience are constantly looking for new products, and they're not afraid to try new things because they're on a health kick and they're trying new things, and so the barrier of entry is quite low for them. So that's our initial strategy. We're looking at now some slightly bigger influencers, and essentially, as I said before, we're just sending them product and saying, let us know what you think.
Are you identifying them, or are you using an agency like Tribe? Or
No, we're doing it ourselves. So we're just we're scraping social media, my partner and I, and identifying people, and we have some people reach out to us as well.
How does it work for the small business owners listening who are thinking, I wouldn't mind trying this micro influencer thing. It sounds cheap, potentially effective. Do you first go, you go to Instagram, identify a particular industry, in this case maybe fitness coaches or dietitians or whatever, and then if they're in between 5,000 and 20,000, do you reach out via a DM, or do you sort of have an interaction with them first as a member of the public?
Yeah, so we'll look at people who make sense in our industry. So as you said, dietitians, anyone health focused. And then we'll just reach out to them on a DM. Yeah, we're a new business and we play off that angle a bit. I find a lot of people like to help new Australian businesses. We also mentioned that we're a family business, and it's true. It's just my partner and I currently working here. So we mentioned we're a family business and DM them, and a lot of people are just keen to support our journey as well. So that's kind of how we do it.
It's certainly how I felt when your pitch came across my desk, which is, a young bloke having a crack. What really, really grabbed my attention, Mez, is the courage of you and your partner entering the FMCG market. I mean, I just think, to me, that is just like walking into a minefield. Why? Because it sounds expensive. It feels complicated. You are dealing with the mammoth brands of the FMCG world. For those who don't know what FMCG is fast-moving consumer goods, any product that you find basically in a supermarket. And there's so many hurdles of which I'd like to talk to you about. So well done to you, Mez, for having the courage to do this. I think you're crazy, but I'm full of admiration. 2 years R&D I saw in your bio. Really?
Yeah, that's kind of how long it takes.
What were you doing?
It's not a fast process. Despite the F and FMCG, to actually get started, it's not fast. That journey was rough. There was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears.
Really?
But yeah.
Tell me about them. Tell me about the most blood and the most tears.
So essentially the way it started is I needed to come up with so I had the concept, right? I wanted healthy instant noodles, but that's just a dream. Everyone's got ideas, right? It's what you do with that. So I thought I need to come up with a recipe of some sorts. And I cook, but I'm not a massive chef. I'm not the person that everyone turns to for dinner or anything like that. I'm just a regular guy, but I just essentially taught myself how to make pasta. So I went and bought a cheap pasta maker, and I was just in my kitchen, essentially in my spare time, just making pasta and making noodles and trialing recipes. And all sorts of things, and just constantly researching. And that process took about 6 months in itself to get to a point where I was happy with what I had come up with in terms of a base formulation. And then from there, it's that's kind of when the fun really started. This is where maybe not the fun, but this is where the blood and sweat and tears kind of started, was trying to find a manufacturer to actually produce the product for me. That was a massive challenge. That took,
because you didn't have, well, you had a track record with Halo, but I guess you weren't necessarily manufacturing. What was, so a startup? Have they got the money? Are they for real? The order quantities are going to be so small, it's not worth our bother. Is that the kind of pushback you were getting?
Yeah, 100%. Like, manufacturing is all about volume, and when you're a startup, you have no volume. And you have no track record. So it's essentially trying to convince them. Funny enough, I've met with some of the big retailers. I won't mention who they are, but in Australia, there's a few big retailers, and I've met with them. I find meeting with manufacturers a lot more difficult than meeting with retailers. Just trying to convince manufacturers to believe in the product was a massive uphill journey, and I learned a lot in that process.
Mm-hmm. Well, what's your biggest learning?
So it's really interesting, because usually a business is trying to do whatever they can to get a client, right?
Yes.
And in this relationship, I'm essentially the client.
Quite the opposite.
Yeah, I'm the client, but I'm trying to convince them. And when I first went in, I just approached it with a normal, a normal relationship, and I just said, here's my product, here's what I'm thinking, can you produce it? And then I just got rejected time and time again. And I realized very quickly that I actually have to sell this to the manufacturers, and I have to bring them on the journey with me. I need to show them the vision. I really need to sell this harder than I've had to sell it to anybody else. And that was basically my biggest learning, was treating manufacturers as essentially like investors, because they're going to be investing in your product. They're going to be taking a massive risk. They're going to be taking out time on their production lines to essentially give you a chance, with the hope that you're going to grow and become big. So that was my biggest learning when it came to dealing with manufacturers, is really sell the idea and sell the vision. And what was really interesting from that is you want to your manufacturer is your biggest partner, essentially. So having values align is really important. And I found that through sharing this vision, it became really clear whose values aligned with mine, and who I could work with, and who I could sort of build a long-term relationship with, and others, just kind of went away. And it's probably better that happened.
I think the big learning for everyone listening is to sell your story. It sounds to me like the minute you started, you flipped the conversation from the rational, quantities, timing, budgets, recipe, all that stuff that's really important. But I imagine the minute over the boardroom table with the manufacturer, you talk about your story of nostalgia, your vision for what you want, the gap you want to fill, and why, then maybe that emotional kind of conversation flick the switch on a manufacturer that you now use.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Interesting. I think we can all learn from that. Tell more stories. And we think we don't have stories to tell. They can be micro stories. They don't have to be big, epic stories about this is how we did it. That's a great learning. So you're getting Wholesome Bowl, it's all manufactured out of Australia?
Yeah, I really wanted to have manufacturing done in Australia, but it was way too expensive.
So it is offshore?
Yeah, it's offshore. It's my manufacturing's in Malaysia.
Okay. Does that pose problems, or it's pretty easy really? Super cheap, or a lot cheaper than here?
Yeah, the reason I chose Malaysia is they have really high food standards as well. So that's another thing when it comes to value alignment is I don't want to put out a product that I don't trust myself and I don't eat myself. So, when I was vetting manufacturers, high food standard was essential. And yeah, Malaysia has quite high food standards, and especially the manufacturer I'm using.
I imagine there was a point in time where you had to say, yes, let's do it. Let's roll the dice. And I'm imagining it's a big roll. I'm guessing you weren't sitting on $1 gazillion that, hey, there's no risk here. If it fails, it doesn't matter. Failing matters. Can you recount the time when you said to the manufacturer, okay, we're going to go with you, and this is our first order quantity? Were you sweating?
Yeah, 100%. Even though it had been a long time coming, when I sent that email of the first purchase order,
yeah,
and I saw the amount, and I'm like, I'm going to have to transfer that amount of money to them. And yeah, just to be clear, I was funding this 100% myself at the start. So
can you say how much? What was the amount?
It was about, without shipping, it was about 70,000.
Wow.
And then you had to I had to account for another $10,000 in about shipping costs.
That's a lot. That's a lot of instant noodles.
It is a lot. Yeah, it's a full shipping container's worth of instant noodles. So yeah, and that's all my own money.
Wow, good on you, man. I mean, this is the reason I do this podcast. I just think that is awesome. Tell me what gave you the confidence. Oh, you had to pull the trigger at some point. You'd been R&Ding for 2 years. You'd now found a manufacturer. What gave you the confidence? Did you have an order? I interviewed Daniel Flynn from Thank You many years ago, and talked to him about that moment of pulling the trigger on his first order of bottled water, like the world needed more bottled water. And yeah, he was sweating bullets. What gave you the confidence to do it?
So I had a lot of conversations with distributors and stores and retailers. So that's what gave me the confidence, essentially, because I knew I had customers right out of the gate.
Did you have a purchase order?
I did not have a purchase order. I didn't have an official purchase order, no. But I had enough of a relationship with some of the distributors that I was confident that they would order, and they did.
Jeez, mate, that is rolling. They're rolling an even bigger dice. Tell me about that process. So you've got manufacturer, you then have a middleman, do you, a distributor, who then has access to the Coles and the Woolies and the IGAs of the world. Is that how it works?
Almost. So my strategy, to backtrack a little bit, my strategy is to first go into independent grocery stores. So, we're talking about specialty grocery stores, we're talking about some IGAs and things like that. And because they're all independently owned, you really need to go and convince the store owner to take on your product. And that can be a really difficult task if you're doing that directly to stores. So that's why you use a distributor, because they have the relationship with the stores. When it comes to the majors, you generally go directly yourself, because you're just dealing with one purchasing team, and the large retailers push out the product to the stores. The stores don't really have a choice to whether or not to take it. So that's kind of the process.
Are you now in the Coles and the Woolies of the world?
No, not yet.
Not yet.
It's been we've been around for about 7 months. I do want to build out in the independents first, though. Mm-hmm. It's a really good, solid base to have.
Yes.
It's also a place where a lot of people go to find new product. So,
is it?
Your Coles and your specialty stores, especially.
That's interesting.
Your health food stores. There's always new products out there. So if anyone's listening to this, check out your specialty.
So when you say special, that's interesting. They're a testing ground, are they? Just sort of that's how it's happened. So when you say specialty stores, you're talking about the smaller grocery stores that are maybe part of the FoodWorks network or the IGA network. But then are you talking about small independent health stores and
all of the above.
All of the above. And that's interesting. It's a testing ground for new product. I'll go in there with a different set of eyes next time.
Yeah, definitely. You'll see a lot of products that you won't be able to find in major grocery stores.
And do you think the buyers from the major grocery stores are going into those places looking, or are they just waiting for people like you to go into them and say, hey, listen, we've been in some FoodWorks stores for 12 months now, and here's the results. Do you want in?
Yeah, I think it's a bit of both. They definitely go and have a look and see what's out there.
Tell me about your mindset, Mez, when you look at the behemoths that are Coles or Woolworths or Aldi. I mean, to me, and I've got I've got no FMCG experience, but I look at them and the stories that I hear, they just feel like massive walls to climb, which is cool. That's why we do business. We like a challenge. When you look at a Coles or a Woolies, how does it make you feel?
I see opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
It's a way or a vehicle to be able to fulfill my vision, which is to provide healthy, convenient, affordable meals. So that's my vision. That's what I want to do. Beyond, just making money and sales, I kind of want to make an impact and make a difference. And to be able to do that, you really need to be in mainstream grocery stores. So I see that I see that landscape as opportunity and a way to fulfill my my aims and goals.
From my understanding, and again, you can correct me on this, but just some of the hurdles, and I sound so negative, but I'm interested because, I'd love to know how you're going to tackle these challenges. Coles, Woolworths, you've got to pay to play. You've got to pay for shelf position. You've got to pay for aisle ends. Be lucky to get an aisle end, I imagine. So you've got all that happening for Wholesome Bowl ahead of you. The other challenge to me, which I'm fascinated to know how you're going to approach it, is you are up against the Maggis of the world, right? Companies with massive marketing budgets, and they're not going to take any prisoners.
Yeah, definitely.
They're going to knock you out as hard as they can if you go anywhere near them. How do you reconcile that, A, in your mind, and B, literally, if you end up being on those shelves?
Yeah, it's definitely it's something to be aware of and kind of in the back of your mind. I think if you focus too much on it, it can be paralyzing. So I try not to think too much about it. But what gives me comfort is, although, these big brands that you're talking about have massive marketing dollars and can put things in place, ultimately it's the consumer that decides what's successful and what's not. And I think that being consumer focused, I think that's one thing that maybe the bigger brands, it's a bit harder for them to be. Aren't as personable, aren't as relatable.
Yeah, totally. That's great. I totally get that, and it resonates because, again, I'll reference Daniel Flynn from the Thank You Group. Do you know who I'm talking about when I talk about?
Yeah, definitely.
So years, and I think Daniel's been on this show 3 times over the last 14 years. He first came on when he had the idea for Thank You and for the bottled water, which, for every bottle you bought, you were going to enable a well to be built in a third world country's village, et cetera, et cetera. So he did exactly what you're suggesting, which is get the consumers on hand and get them to push the idea into the big Coles and Woolworths of the world, to the point, I don't know whether you remember this, but boy, it's a great bit of guerrilla marketing. He first of all got his followers to post on social media why Coles and Woolworths should stock Thank You water, right? Number one. Then he gets a meeting with Coles and a meeting with Woolworths in the big mahogany boardrooms of these huge businesses. And during the meeting, he has a helicopter fly past the window with a big thank you banner saying, "Hey, Coles and Woolworths, make sure you say yes." It's incredible. But that's the links, and the rest is history. Thank You's now a very successful brand, albeit he's had, ups and downs, and what business hasn't over the years. But that's the links he had to go to get those big guys on board. Where's your helicopter?
Well, I don't have a helicopter yet, but that's one tactic.
Yes.
I'm hoping we can use another tactic. We've got a few things up our sleeves, so there's different ways to sort of entice,
of course,
a Coles and a Woolies.
It feels like you could have a lot of fun with it, though. I think the great thing about something like instant noodles is, at the end of the day, it's fun. It's fun food, and it can be part of your whole brand character.
100%.
Innovation-wise, I'm interested, Mez. You've been innovative in the sense that you have created an instant noodle brand in Wholesome Bowl that has protein and fibre and vitamins and minerals. So clearly there is a point of difference that I'm guessing no one else is owning, to my knowledge. That's a pretty good thing. But after that, it would appear to me that you've got a chicken and a beef flavour, So not a lot of innovation there yet. Wholesome Bowl's not being sold in a bowl. It's being sold in a plastic packaging. I'm guessing there's a lot of upside here where you can start to investigate some more funky flavourings, some more funky ways of delivering it. Yeah?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, 100%. It's all on our roadmap. So chicken and beef, they're the two most sold flavors out there. So chicken is number one actually across all of instant noodles, and then it does about double what beef does. So it's not even close. So we wanted to essentially tick off the essentials first. So what we have in our innovation pipeline that I can share is we've just finished R&D on our bowls. So they're going to be coming out, in the next few months, I would say, hopefully before the end of the year / early next year. So much more convenient when it comes to like, you grab a bowl, take it to work. All you need to do is pour hot water into it and cover it, and you can have it at work or on the go, which is great. The great thing about our instant noodles is, and a decision I made early on, is to have all of the nutritional magic, let's say, in the actual noodle cake itself. So noodle block, instead of having it in the seasoning, which means that we're free to do whatever we want with the seasoning. It's really easy just to create different flavors and different profiles and things like that. Seasoning is it's quite straightforward to create 10 different flavors because all the magic is actually coming from the noodles itself. So that's what we have in store. And beyond that, what's interesting again with noodles and pasta, it's essentially all the same. The recipe is very similar. So you can, why not make a mac and cheese? Why not make an instant pasta or anything like that? So there's breadth to what we can do.
You talked about your innovation pipeline. What is your innovation process? I imagine it's fairly simple. You and your partner sit around a table, bounce ideas, and at some point go, oh, yeah, that sounds like a good one. We'll try that. Is that kind of the extent of the innovation process, or is there a board? Do you go out onto social media and ask people what they want?
That's how it starts. Just sitting at dinner and being like, I think this would be a cool idea. But then you have to test that. So then you talk to your friends. What do you think about this? And you have to be careful, like which friends you talk to, because some have good advice, but some are like, I don't know about that.
I find that whole thing fascinating when you reach out to people because everyone's got an opinion.
Yeah.
Whose opinion should you respect? Some people are just, some people are yes people. They don't want to upset you. So, maybe, when you said to someone, if you said to 10 of your friends when Wholesome Bowl was just an idea, I'm going to start an instant noodle company, you might have had 6 of them go, oh, that sounds great, Mez. But really they're going, oh, fuck, this guy's crazy. You got to be careful I think whose words you trust.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. The other thing is just talking to like people you meet, like Uber drivers and barbers and whoever it may be, just you come across. But then ultimately you need to do research and, you need to get out there and, either sample different ideas with people or you need to, do some Googling and web research to see if your ideas sound.
Do you, so you talk about moving into pasta and other areas within food categories. Have you given any consideration to a retail offering? I can imagine a Wholesome Bowl cafe where all they serve is instant noodles.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. Haven't put much thought into that yet, but
I'll send you the invoice. Pay it when the idea hits the market.
Thanks for the consult. Yeah, maybe in the future, definitely. Why not?
You've done a joint promo with your old employer, Halo.
Yep.
Tell us about that joint promotion. I like joint promotions because it's a great way of getting leverage.
Yeah, definitely. So Halo Top Ice Cream. I launched their product in Australia a while back, so I have a really good relationship with their team, and it just kind of made sense, like dinner and dessert, right? Like
absolutely,
it's a no-brainer, and really they were helping me out They've got quite a big following on social media, and I had not such a big following. So they were doing me a favor, but yeah, I really appreciate it. And essentially what we did is, we wanted to build some brand awareness. So we said, tag a friend on this post, and you go into a draw to win, noodles and some ice cream. So dinner and dessert on us, essentially. So
Nice.
yeah, that's what we did. And it was a really successful campaign. And doing joint brand marketing activities I find very, very useful because you can just tap into each other's audiences.
100%.
Some products are just go really well together.
Yep.
And it's really great.
Yeah, no, I do like a good strategic joint promotion. You have a website, which I was quite fascinated by. So I'm interested to know, why does an instant noodle brand need a website? And you have wholesomebowl.com. I notice .com.au is available. Why wouldn't you A, buy that, and B, redirect it? Or are you aiming for global domination?
Global domination is definitely what I'm aiming for. I believe I've already. I have to check this afterwards. I believe I already bought the .com.au.
Oh, you keep talking, and I'll just double check my facts there.
It should be redirected already.
No, it's not. It's parked.
It's parked.
Okay.
I have to get onto that.
Yeah.
It should be redirected.
Cool.
Thanks
Okay, so you own it. So why do you need a website?
So what's interesting, and I sort of see this as also a learning journey for me, is so when I was doing the ice cream, we could never sell online because ice cream, you just can't ship it.
Of course.
It's just too much of a headache. So as part of like my growth development, I wanted to learn about e-commerce and selling online. So I said to myself, instant noodles are really shelf stable. They can be shipped really easily. Why not also have that as an additional sales channel and learn about how to, essentially bring people on board through that avenue. Also, I find as we're starting out, we don't have full distribution. We are national right now, but it's not in every single store nationally. So we find a lot of customers from rural areas purchasing our product, and we're able to ship them our product, which is great because otherwise they wouldn't have access to it.
Interesting. Well, I imagine it's probably a small percentage of your sales, but nice to be able to service those rural areas. And I suppose pricing wise, you have to be careful too. I imagine it'd be the most expensive place to buy Wholesome Bowl is online because you can't upset your retailers, right?
Yeah, definitely. You don't want to start competing with yourself on shelf. So there's a shipping cost and all that sort of stuff involved. So if someone has a store near them, it makes more sense for them just to go to the store and grab it. But if not, and if they want the convenience, then they can buy online.
Hey, Mez, I think it's a great story, mate. Well done on having the courage and commitment to take on. You'll end up taking on the big guys, and I hope you win. I hope I walk into a Coles next year and there's Wholesome Bowl, a shelf above Maggi noodles. Happy days.
Oh, yeah, I'd love that.
Wholesomebowl.com is where you'll find Mez and his products. And Mez, thanks for sharing your story on the Small Business Big Marketing podcast.
Thanks so much for having me. It was great to be here.
Well, there you go, team. Australia's newest instant noodle guy, Mez Jamali of Wholesome Bowl. What a challenge he has ahead of him. But I've got to tell you, I love his focus on nostalgia, and I love the fact that he's taking things a step at a time. Because I'm sure with a challenge like he's got ahead of him, that it would be very, very easy to give into overwhelm. Maybe I'm just projecting. Don't know. Hey, if one of your guilty pleasures is instant noodles, mine is, don't tell anyone, then head over to wholesomebowl.com and buy some. Give him a bit of support, or at the very least, send him a message of support via Wholesome Bowl CO on Insta. I think that'd be a lovely thing to do. In fact, I should have encouraged you to do that after every episode. Just, us small business owners need to encourage each other. So when you do listen to an episode of this show in the future, reach out to the guest and say, love your work, wishing you all the luck. I'm sure it'll come back to you in spades. Righto, team, it's time for you to take action on what you have learned, because ideas remain exactly that, without action. If you'd like to support the work I do for small business, and I'd love you to, and want even more of me, Why would you? Then check out my exclusive business owner membership at patreon.com/marketing podcast, where membership starts at a tax-deductible $8.50 a month. And you can start a free trial, a 7-day free trial of my silver tier, which is $47 a month without obligation. Why wouldn't you? If you enjoyed today's episode, please hit the subscribe button on your favourite podcast app, where there are 644 more chats with successful business founders. A big thanks to editor Sam Heathcote for stitching the marketing GOLD together, and to our in-house rock star Lockie Doley for the music bed. Thanks, boys. Most importantly, a really big thanks to you for taking the time to tune in. May your marketing be the absolute best marketing